Hi friends, it's Amy at Doki Forest, and today I am going to flip you through book 2, or at least part of book 2, from my nature journal. This is a traveler's notebook that I have been using to keep track of what I see and hear when I'm out and about on my nature walks. And it's relatively new. I just really started doing this last year, the end of last year, fall of last year, and I've really been enjoying it. And I shared book 1 with you previously, so today we're going to get into book 2, and we won't be able to finish it because it's going to run a little bit long, so I will put up the second half later. And this is all for Flip Through Friday. This is a hashtag, Flip Through Friday, that you can look up and see who else is sharing journals and flip-throughs, and it's an open collab. You can feel free to jump in, and it's hosted by Christina at Christina's Shack. I will have all of the information down below so you can check that out. Now this insert for book 2 is a craft paper insert, so it's a little different from the book 1 and also book 3, which I'm using currently. And it's really cool. I like how Traveler's Company has these different notebook inserts that you can put in here, all different styles. I just use the basic ones, whether they're just regular paper or craft paper. They're just regular paper. They're not like watercolor paper. They don't have any lines or grids or anything like that. And I really enjoy them. So let's get into the journal. I like to put a little date in here. So this nature journal begins November 7th, 2022 and ends March 24th, 2023. This is book 2 of my nature journals. And then I just did some decorating on this page. There's me, just pretending. There's me out and about looking at all the things in the forest, little bear there. And most of these pages, perhaps all of them, I have shared in various journaling videos. You can look at my playlist for nature journals and check anything out that's in here. And the thing is, when I put up those, I like to do those as gentle journaling with just music and footage if I have it. If I was able to capture what I'm drawing either in a picture or on film, I try to include that. And yeah, but no talking. I just have those be very peaceful. So it's kind of nice doing this flip through and looking at them, because now I can be a little more chatty and kind of talk to you about what was going on. So here we are. Page 1, November 7th. This was me going out at 8:19 in the morning, and it was 63 degrees. Oh, 63 is pretty good for November. Wow. So today was turtles, frogs, and snakes. So the first critter I saw was a very small painted turtle swimming below the surface in the Cat-o'-Nine Tail Creek. Then I was walking through Frog Chirp Alley, and the frogs were very happily obliging with many peeps and chirps. They are loving the warm weather. I went over to the side to have a peek at a little watery spot. I have seen a frog before, and there before my eyes was a very long garter snake. And you can see on this is just ink. So sometimes I do ink. More often now I'm doing ink and then watercolor. But on these pages I didn't. And actually the funny thing is, when I went about a month ago, it was in May, I went and I looked in the water at this little creek, and then up swam a garter snake. A garter snake in the water swam up and then got off on the land and slithered. But I have never seen a garter snake in the water. So that really surprised me. And it happened so fast I couldn't even get footage of it. And I think I forgot to even write about it. But that was amazing, because I know they hang out by the water, you know, so they can hunt and get their food. But like, I didn't think they could swim. So that was news to me. Just a few steps later, I was lucky enough to look very closely at a log and see a little grayish frog clinging to it. As I took pictures, I then noticed a second frog that was closer to me that I hadn't seen before. There were probably many more right before my eyes, but they blend in so well, it's like an I Spy puzzle. Lots of puddles of water loaded with leaves for the frogs to hang out in. And here's the froggies. Yeah, they really blend in. I think they're wood frogs. They I mean, they are like exactly like the color of the mud and leaves. So a lot of times when I'm walking, if I see a spot where I know they usually hang out, if I'm walking by, I'm like, I can't see them. But if I just stop and I stay there for a minute and I try to like get my eyes to really just kind of slowly scan, sometimes all of a sudden there will be a little froggy there. One that I could have easily missed because, again, their camouflage is amazing. But, and they're just little, you know, they're little kind of frogs, but they're super cute. I haven't had really great luck finding these little guys my past few walks I've taken, so I'm keeping my eye out, but they've been very elusive lately. A red dragonfly landed on a yellow leaf right in front of me. A little squirrel pausing for a snack. I couldn't tell what kind of nut the squirrel was eating. He's having his little munchies and crunchies. The bunches of red berries growing in the wet areas like marshes were being enjoyed by the waxwings today. The other day when Mum and I went for our walk and we saw them, I thought they must be poisonous because no one was eating them. I was wrong because they were certainly being gobbled up today. So I thought these red berries were poisonous, and you know they might be to some, you know, to us, but for birds and animals that have adapted to eating this sort of thing, it doesn't bother them. So I don't know if we could eat them, but they were okay for these guys. And then the spore mushrooms, I keep finding these in my yard lately. November 9th, 2022, 8:05 a.m., 29 degrees. Now that's more like the kind of weather that we have in November. So yeah, I like to put the date, I like to put the time and the temperature. I don't always do that, but if I remember to, I like to have that. And sometimes I give a little title of what I saw. So this one's wasps and ducks. So that's what I saw that day. Today there were so many ducks in the river, all quacking away so loudly it sounded like Donald Duck laughing. They were all lined up on the stationary logs in the water. And then I found this oak apple gall, which is like one of those like little pods that are little balls and they're bumpy. And it's created by a wasp. And I think it holds their larvae inside. These ones were empty. They're all dried out now. But you see them on the oak trees sometimes. You'll see them growing. And then I found a bunch of pieces of a wasp nest. It was empty. It seemed like maybe some mold had grown inside. Was that the reason the wasps left? So it had a bluish tinge on one side, which I wasn't sure if that was mold or if it was some sort of a biological thing growing on there that was okay. I have no idea, but usually when I find the wasp nests, they're just really papery and look more like this sort of a thing. So I hadn't ever seen a blue tinge to one before. And this was November 14th, 8:15 a.m., 30 degrees, and this was a day that Gavin stayed home from school. So we went for a walk, and it was really windy. We weren't really expecting it to be that windy. It just was. So it was crazy windy. We had jackets, of course, and luckily Gav's had a hood, but I would have packed us gloves and winter hats if I'd known how cold it would be. Gavin was the official photographer today. So that was my drawing of us together. Gavin liked taking pictures of the green algae in the water. He was very excited to see the waning gibbous moon over the treetops. He especially loved seeing the moon on one side of the path and the sun rising on the other. I pointed out the little brown, gray, and white hanging bird nest in the tree on Mushroom Path. It was a beautiful oriole nest. It is woven by a female oriole using fibers such as milkweed or fluffy materials. Males help with gathering materials. This is my little drawing, because you can see that little nest is still hanging on the branch. There's not much to it now because they'll build new ones this year, but it survives for quite a long time. We also saw a yellow hanging berry or fruit, which I believe was a crab apple. It was the last one hanging onto the branch. November 15th, 2022. Today was very cold. Most of the oak trees have lost their leaves, but the maples still have a few here and there that would come drifting down. The leaves looked very pretty along the path, all frosted over and sparkling. Yeah, they were so beautiful the way they would glitter. I mean, I couldn't really capture that glittery look, but the frost, you could see all the little crystals. They're really nice. Not many mushrooms to see anymore, but I did see this one. I saw a beautiful deer up on a hillside, looking over at me. It looked so magical with the mist and sunlight behind. And this one I tore some paper from it's like a paper bag, but I think this was actually from packaging material, maybe from like Amazon or something. It could have been a paper bag. And then I painted it to add some trees and then watercolor. And the paper is pretty good with watercolor. This one actually looks really good. Sometimes it gets crinkly, but I don't mind that because, you know, this paper is not meant to be like watercolor paper, but it can take watercolor. It's just that it might get a little bit crinkly. And then this I had done on a separate page. I had done on like probably a mixed media paper or something because it's a little bit thicker. And then cut it out and added it into my book. As we were walking, I almost missed seeing a barred owl right there in the tree next to the path. They blended in so well with their surroundings. You really do have to keep a sharp eye out to catch a glimpse of something amazing. And that was so true. I was just walking along, and if I had been looking down the whole time, I would have easily just walked right by, even though they were right, like the path was right here, and they were in the tree right next to the path. But of course, you know, owls are so quiet, and it would have been so easy to miss, but I've kind of trained myself a little bit to scan around. You know, don't forget to look up. You know, we look at the path, we look on side to side to see what's in the forest, you know, what might be running around, or, you know, do we hear anything? But you also have to remember to look up in those branches because you never know. I found a hawk up there that I could have easily walked by, and this time was an owl. And it's funny too if there's other people walking at the same time because you see them just go right past, you know, so many things. And I'm sure I do the same thing. I'm sure I walk by so many birds and animals, but it's really special when you catch a glimpse and you think like, wow, if I had come here earlier or later, I would have missed this. Or if I hadn't been looking, if I was lost in my own thoughts and, you know, just wasn't taking in my surroundings, I would have easily missed something beautiful. So that's my advice. Don't forget to look in all the directions when you're looking for nature. Some tracks I saw today. A horse hoof. This is the first time I've seen horse hoof prints. Wish I saw the horse. Not sure what this is. I only saw 2 defined claws. So the claws were out on 2, and then it's not to say that these ones weren't out, but just that I couldn't see the print in the mud or the sand, whatever I was looking at. So I don't know what that is, but it's hard to say because it's just my drawing, and I don't know if it was like a dog, you know, a dog that was just walking on the trail. It could be a coyote. Yeah, I don't know. Over at Red Squirrel Runway, I saw a little guy up in the tree scurrying across a branch. His fluffy tail curled over his back. Me busy. They were so high up, I managed to snap a picture before they disappeared. And these little names are just names I give on the path. So, Red Squirrel Runway, it's just, you know, when I walk on the path, it's a spot on the trail where I see red squirrels a lot. So to help me remember that, I just call it Red Squirrel Runway. And the red squirrels are so fast. They are, I haven't actually looked this up, but like my personal observations is that they are so much faster than gray squirrels. They zip. They're very difficult for me to get a picture of. They're like beyond sport mode. They're so quick. I saw many winter birds today, such as tufted titmice, nuthatches, chickadees, juncos, and woodpeckers. This one little tufted titmouse was searching a tree earnestly for something to eat, and didn't mind at all that I stopped to watch them. Do you perhaps have a blueberry? They hoard food in the fall and winter and live in natural tree holes and cavities left by woodpeckers. Titmice can't make their own homes. Another reason why dead trees are vital in an ecosystem. So I write my own observations, and then sometimes I'll look up on either the local state bird information site, or there's a site, I think it's allaboutbirds.org. They're really great with pictures and information, because I like to try to add some facts in. So that way, if I'm reading this, or my boys are reading this, or someone's reading this in the future, they've got a little picture, a little bit of my observation, and some facts to maybe learn something. Okay, and here we go. We're just going, this was November 17th, 10:30, 35 degrees, super windy but sunny. This trail started at the brown barn and went through the forest with tree identifying posts all along the way. I think this trail would have been amazing a couple of weeks ago when the leaves were turning all of their autumn colors and there would be lots of seeds and nuts to collect. Right now there are no leaves on the trees, and the oak leaves are a thick carpet on the forest floor. I found some small pine cones on the ground, actual size, Scots pine. I particularly liked the bark of this Norway spruce. The bark looked like dragon scales or mud that had baked and cracked in the sun. There were many big green rocks with beautiful green moss growing on them. I came across a sign pointing out a witch hazel plant. There were no leaves or flowers now, of course, but I'll check back in the spring. If I study it well, I should hopefully have an easier time identifying it. So yeah, that was one of my things, one of my personal goals was to try to learn to identify some more trees and leaves and flowers, plants, because I'm not really great at that. So I wanted to keep learning. And this was really helpful because this trail identified all of the trees. Although, to be honest, it was still hard for me to find the differences when I was looking at some of the different barks. Like, some of them looked really different, but some of them looked very similar. So I think if I had the bark plus the leaves, it would make it easier. I was only looking at the bark because the leaves were all on the ground. Some really nice green scallopy mushrooms growing on a birch tree. Some papery orange mushrooms growing on a mossy patch on a tree. The crows are very loud as they fly overhead. That's my singing, thank you very much. November 18th, 8:10, 30 degrees. As I began my walk, I heard the laughing ducks in the water again. Then, heading down the path, I saw many robins picking through the leaves on the ground or flying from one side of the path to the other. When I was little, seeing robins was a sign of spring, since they flew south for the winter. Now most seem to stay up north year-round. Don't worry, I've adapted and grown extra feathers to stay warm. I can eat lots of berries in winter, including hollyberries. The woodpecker woods didn't disappoint today, with many downy, Gavin says Robert Downey Jr. woodpeckers, and hairy. Oh, I'm glad I wrote that. I forgot he called them Robert Downey Jr. woodpeckers instead of just Downey woodpeckers. That's funny. Now I'm thinking I have to draw a Downey woodpecker and somehow make it look like Robert Downey Jr. Maybe it'll wear an Iron Man suit. Today in the sandy spot by the big hill, I saw deer prints and a little broken acorn. As I was heading back and walking through the woodpecker woods, I suddenly heard a very high-pitched, piercing cry that I had never heard before. When I looked up to see what it was, I saw a great big bald eagle soaring overhead, chasing away a hawk. This is only the third bald eagle I've ever seen in my life, so I was thrilled. Their eye reminds me of snake eyes, that grouchy look. Oh yeah, they seem like they have this, snakes kind of have this scaly bump that hangs over the top of their eye that makes their eye look slanted, like they're angry. And I feel like the bald eagle also has those kind of eyes, the way the feathers grow in. It's like they have this like angry eye look. But yeah, I haven't seen a bald eagle in a long time. Although I did get a tip from someone who was on the trail who told me where to find a pair of nesting bald eagles. And I haven't been there yet, so I'll have to check that out. The last two things of note that I saw today were squirrel related. One little gray squirrel stuffed as many leaves into his mouth as he could. It was really impressive. They were actually all bunched up and sticking out of their mouth. But the way that squirrel climbed right up the tree to their nest was quite a feat. Yeah, it was incredible. I mean, this isn't an exaggeration. It literally had a ton of leaves and like a big pile, and it was all sticking out. And it just scaled right up the tree, no problem. It was amazing. And I wished I could see, it went into its squirrel nest or dray. And I wished that I had a view of like what it looked like in the nest, when they're putting it together with this. But that was really cool. Okay, that does it for book 2 of my nature journal. I will be back to share the rest of it with you, perhaps in next week's flip through. Who knows? I really appreciate you coming by today. I hope you have a wonderful day, a great weekend, and I will see you again soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.